we have an event in Detroit, Michigan, your hometown, right? So in the D, I really think I'm a D girl. And we have a second chance program that's in Detroit. There are 2 action items that we're doing. One, we're helping families get into homes. So our goal is to help 1,000 families pre-qualify for homes and eventually move into those homes. So we're helping them with credit repair. We're helping them to get their business in order so that they can pre-qualify. Secondly, once I buy the building, renovate the building, then I'm helping those that have been in prison that are now out, but they need a second chance. They need a place to live. I'm helping them with the reentry program that I'm working with the government in Detroit. We have a symposium on May 25th where I'm going to show you how to get the house. If you're interested in fix and flip, I'm going to show you how to fix and flip. I'm going to help you with the lenders. We have lenders coming to the table. We have NACA coming to the table. We have investors coming to the table. So no matter where you fall on the spectrum, we can get you into a home.
What led you to Detroit?
So a lot of people don't know, but when I was in seminary, I graduated seminary 2011. When I was in seminary, there was a Detroit pastor. You may know him because you're from the D. Solomon Kinlock.
I know the name.
So I worked with Solomon Kinlock, hired me from Atlanta, and he would fly me there every other week. But Kinlock found me working with Bishop Eddie Long. He was like, we need a worship leader. Would you mind coming to teach our church? And so I said yes. And 4 years later, I was still there commuting every week. So I would come back to Georgia to study for theology, but then I would fly to Detroit to help the ministries. From that, I started flying around the country because I worked with also Dewey Smith in Atlanta. I worked with Dr. Jamal Bryant in Atlanta. I worked with, of course, Bishop Eddie Long in Atlanta. I worked with pastors in California and New York. So I just really began to use the gifts that God gave me to help the megachurch ministries grow.
Are you finding that the city is making a comeback? Because there's a lot of positive news going on in Detroit right now.
I knew that the hand of God was on Detroit. I knew that Detroit was a special place in the heart of God. You know, I have an apostolic gift. I'm an apostle by gifting. The first thing that the Holy Spirit gave to me was that there was a dark cloud over Detroit. And this is like 15 years ago. But as I began to minister to the people and work with the people, I'm like, these people have gifts that I don't see anywhere in the country.
There's a lot of talent in Detroit.
The talent, let me tell you something. People think that we have talent in Atlanta.
But a lot of those people in Atlanta are from Detroit.
And New York. And New York. Case in point, you're from Detroit. I'm from New York originally. And so I realized that there was so many gifts. So the first thing coming back to Detroit, I realized that God now is about to do a revival. Henceforth, we have the billionaires that have moved into the city of Detroit that have revitalized the city. Dan Gilbert revitalized it.
You're tied in.
Listen, I'm locked in. Detroit is my city. Don't play with Detroit. When they talk about Detroit, I get offended. I'm totally locked in, but Dan Gilbert has revitalized the city. All the buildings are coming back up. And that was the other thing that I noticed when traveling to Miami, traveling to Atlanta, traveling to New York. Detroit has the best property investments in the USA. And I really saw God having a need for me there. I'm able to impact the community like I haven't been able to do in a long time. You know, in Atlanta, when you get in politics, you can get blackballed. Being able to move around the city and really do what you do because you love community can be hard when people are intimidated by your gift. So I was able to sneak in Detroit, use my gift.
Oh, you can't sneak in Detroit.
I mean, they know that I'm there, but
if you have talent, Detroit will accept you. If you have talent and they know that you're loyal to the city and that you're giving something instead of taking, they will accept you.
And I guess that's what's happened because I've been embraced. I believe that the Lord has covered me and sending me into the city that is mostly that needs my help. And so nevertheless, it's just been a blessing. Without title, without accolades, without knowing the biggest leaders or ministers or pastors in the city, I care nothing about that. I've come from that. I come, from here. I love helping people. I love teaching people. I love seeing those people that have been dropped, disenfranchised, left out, forgotten about, marginalized Black people, right? Our people of color that ordinarily wouldn't have the opportunity to have the education, being able to go get them. You coming out of prison, let me teach you how to get your credit back. Let me teach you how to get into this house. Let me teach you how to have the right to vote restored.
What do you think about the architecture of some of the buildings downtown Detroit? I mean, you don't see that anywhere else.
Gorgeous. First of all, I live on the river. Okay?
So
I'm downtown. I'm right downtown.
So you're in the area that's totally revitalized.
I'm in the area, it's white folk walking with dogs. Yes. Detroit has the most beautiful architecture. It kind of reminds me of Cuba or Canada. The architecture in the city.
The detail of it.
The detail is so rich with history. I just bought an apartment building, and it's in a historic district. The detail, first of all, my living rooms in the apartment building have that Cuban feel. It's like extremely detailed, wrapped.
Yes.
I mean, I'm in awe of it. So you're not going to see that anywhere.
There's a lot of development up and down Woodward. But if you venture off into other areas a little further away from downtown, you don't see the same investment in Detroit. And I know Detroit, in terms of putting out the great things that are happening in the downtown area, there are people still suffering in that particular city. Who's actually reaching into, and I'm just going to say it, the hood to help the disadvantaged?
I'm sitting in meetings where they're talking about the next areas that are going to be regentrified or redeveloped. And so a lot of the investors and a lot of foreigners are at the table because anytime you have regentrification, it's good for a city, but it's bad for the community.
But who's going to teach Big Mama that she was living in a house that's paid for, but she purchased it for $2,000, but now that house is worth $70,000 to $120,000,
if not more?
Who is educating her? Hey, look, you have this much equity in your home. Negotiate a price for it, and then relocate to another area where you can pay that house off, and then you can put the rest of that money into future investments.
Well, that's why we're having this symposiums called By the Block, because we are teaching Big Mama, we're teaching Big Mama's kids, we're teaching Big Mama's grandkids about the value of home ownership and the necessity to have it, not just have them kick you out and send you to another area, but you actually have the power. Now we're partnering, and we're partnering to provide education to the family. So Big Mama, the sons and daughters, and the grandkids.
I don't think we truly understand the true reason for home ownership. When I purchased my first home, I think I was around 24 years old, and I purchased that home thinking value, appreciation. But as I met people throughout the years, I didn't get that same feeling that they understood the reason why you buy. Then you sell for a profit, and then you bank that money for retirement.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be so transparent. One is because it's not taught. In most of the other cultures, when you have the Jewish community, when you have the Arab community, they understand that, and they're passing that through generational wealth.
And that's what it is.
It's generational wealth. But our community, we probably are on the fourth generation of millionaires. You know what I'm saying? So that mindset has not been transferred and taught.
The World Economic Forum is that you will own nothing and will be happy in the future. And
exactly.
Now we're two generations in of younger folks that don't own anything.
Now,
and the corporations are buying up all the real estate.
They're buying. The house I have in Atlanta, I bought it cash, $345,000. Today it's worth $1.2 million. I became a millionaire through home ownership. And the equity has jumped 600%. Do you know that 5% of the multimillionaires are home? They have property. They're investors. They have wealth through property ownership. Do you know that 3% of all the greatest millionaires that are African American have investment properties? So that should tell us then that our generational wealth is tied to home ownership. Leave your children a home. A home is one of the greatest assets, because in other families, they're starting with, in other cultures. They're starting with an advantage because when their children graduate from college, they have a car and they have a paid for home. Can I tell you the biggest challenge?
What's that?
Mindset.
Oh, yeah.
Mindset. Yeah. So I had to incorporate a mind shift in my education curriculum, because as I'm teaching, I'm sitting there and the girl's like, oh, I want a home. I'm like, okay, tell me what you do. She's like, I'm an LPN. I'm like, okay, you make the money, you can do it. I get this girl in the credit program and she goes, but before I buy the home, can I go ahead and buy this food truck? I said, miss, if you buy the food truck, it's going to impede your ability because your debt to income ratio is going to be less. You don't make enough money to get a food truck in a house.
You know what I hear in that conversation? I hear hustle.
That's Detroit, baby.
That's Detroit. That's the difference.
That's Detroit.
In Atlanta, it's a little bit different. You hear finesse. But in Detroit, everybody is on the hustle.
Survival.
And yeah, they're in survival mode, but they're also listening for opportunity constantly. Once they make that connection, they make it happen. That's Detroit.
We have to work with mindset because I can't go any further than your mind. You will not go any further than your mind. You could have nothing. You know that saying, you could take the poor person out the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out the poor person. You could take a person out the ghetto today and put them in a mansion, and they gonna turn that mansion into the hood.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt about it.
So,
I've seen it.
I've seen it too. So we have to deal with the mind. You're going to pull up your Mercedes-Benz into an apartment building that's dilapidated. You're going to be at the bus stop on a cell phone, well, a phone that costs more than somebody's car. You're going to have the sharpest gator shoes. You know, we talking about Detroit.
Yeah.
But y'all make this applicable to the city you live in. You're going to have the sharpest gators, the finest fur, and don't forget the fur hat, and not have a place to call home. Mindset is the greatest weapon against the African American family.
That's true. That's true. No investing, lowest earning group of individuals in the United States.
But the highest spending.
Spenders.
Highest spend $1 trillion at this point.
How do we turn
Love Black Friday.
how do we turn that around as a community?
Education. I think it was W.E.B. Du Bois that talked about the talented 10th. Those talented 10th have a social responsibility to turn around and to help those that are coming behind them. And that's what it's about. Each one teach one, paying it forward, which brings me back to Atlanta. On July 25th, we are having an event in City Hall where we're paying it forward. We are graduating over 60 young entrepreneurs that we've spent months training them in coding, training them in tech, training them in credit repair, training them in financial literacy. I had bank vice presidents get on the phone, get on the Zoom with them and teach them how to open up accounts, teach them what spending and high yielding savings is. And so now they're going to walk across the stage at Atlanta City Hall, and we want influencers like yourself, other commissioners, to be there and to acknowledge the talented 10th so that they would be motivated to pay it forward when they're in the position. And that's going to happen at Atlanta City Hall on July 25th, where we are taking all these categories. We got a Harriet Tubman category for politics. We have a community category. We have a business leaders category. We have a tech and entrepreneurship category. So we're just showing love to the community activists who are very underserved, underappreciated, undervalued, not acknowledged, and having them be the vehicle and the pathway for the new generation that's coming behind them to show them that you can do it. Our keynote speaker is Michael Roberts, who is a billionaire he's from
Texas.
St. Louis. Okay. But he had the Roberts Hotel on the boardwalk in Detroit, Michigan.
I stayed there. That is an incredible piece of real estate.
And what I love about Mike Roberts is his early humble beginnings came from home ownership. He told me that he borrowed money. His father was a postal worker, very prominent in the city, and his father's friends gathered money to give him money to buy his first home. He took those homes and began to flip them. He bought a Sears building. He started buying all the buildings. He started buying radio station, TV station, and became a billionaire by doing the investments. But he is the recipient of our lifetime Lou Gossett Jr. Award. Lou Gossett was a board member of our foundation, and he's going to be the keynote speaker for these young people so that they can see, touch, smell a billionaire that looks just like them, that came from beginnings like them, that own hotels and TV stations and radio stations just like them, so that they would aspire to do just like him. And so
it's beautiful that somebody like that is giving back to his community.
So
we need more people to do the same.
So when you ask, what is it going to take to transform our community? It's going to take people like you, people like me, people like Mike Roberts, that are not afraid, that we don't seclude ourselves in our beautiful, homes, but that we go back out there, we pay it forward. We're going to Congress. So September the 11th, we are going to be at the Congressional Black Caucus. We are introducing a piece of legislation called Liturgical Dance Day. So we're using it as an opportunity to promote arts advocacy, arts education, and arts funding. Listen, we talked about the talent in Detroit. We talked about the talent in Atlanta. I came from New York, so we already know New York has the most talented people in the world, but it's not going to mean anything if we don't create funding and arts programs for our young people to take advantage of. Us going to Congress is an opportunity to show the world our best talent and to harness that talent, and then to put our money where our mouth is. For the Bible